1:23 a.m. Reactor 4 explodes. You wake to an order. They tell you it's urgent. You get dressed, you leave. You do not know yet that this will become the worst nuclear disaster in human history. You hear the numbers later. Chernobyl, April 26, 1986. Reactor 4. You are not from Pripyat. You are not from Chernobyl. You were pulled from somewhere else. Kyiv, Minsk, Moscow, Almaty. Soldiers, miners, firefighters, drivers, engineers, doctors. There are women too. Medics, helpers, ordinary people. Given a name that does not fit ordinary life. Liquidator. You ride in a truck with men who don't say much. Radios flicker with static. It dies. The Geiger counter clicks like a bird in a box. You arrive. Signs, barriers. A place emptied by a speed you can't understand. Houses still full of plates, toys, shoes. Pripyat was emptied the next day. Buses came on April 27th and carried out the townspeople by the thousands. By afternoon, tens of thousands were already gone. The public would hear the story more slowly. The Soviet state announced the accident 2 days later. You were told it would be a short mission. Days, maybe weeks. They did not tell you the names of the things you would meet. They did not give you a full map of what would happen to your body or your days. You are handed tasks. Clear this. Build that. Pour concrete here. Bury that. Shut the door. Make the world act like nothing happened. Machines are sent first. The machines die. Electronics fry. The robots stop moving. So you go up. You become a bio-robot, a human sent to do the job machines cannot. You stand on a roof with a shovel. The roof is deadly hot, not from sun, from the fallout. The dust under your boots is poison, but it looks like dust. The rule is seconds. You're told how long you can stay. The clock is a weapon. 90 seconds for some, a minute for others. Then you step back and someone else steps in. You see the red forest. Pines turn ginger brown, fallen like a scalded thing. They call it a name that sounds small for what it is. It will be called the Red Forest because the trees burned their colour into the world. You learn names fast. Ananenko, Bespalo, Baranov, 3 men who went into the flooded basements to open valves so the reactor would not explode again. People call them brave. The basement smelled like metal and water and an end. They knew the stakes. They went. The valves were opened, lives changed by hands that moved anyway. You meet firefighters. They ran in before you. They died fast. Plant staff stayed longer than their bodies wanted. Men laugh at the table but hold their hands so no one sees the shake. You see silence in men who used to sleep like anyone else. You work in shifts. You build, you shovel, you lift, you fill trucks with dirt and rubble, and pieces of a life no longer allowed to be ordinary. The sarcophagus is raised around the wreck, a patchwork armour of concrete and steel to trap what keeps leaking. You place your hands on materials that will have to hold forever. The world leans on what you put there. You watch machines fail, and then you watch men do the rest. Only a small part of the cleaning was done by remote devices. Humans cleared the bulk. Thousands of people were sent up, down, into places the instruments told them not to stay in. The authorities counted men and sent them forward. In the records later, hundreds of thousands would be listed as involved in the cleanup over the years. You get papers calling you a participant in liquidation, a medal, a form, a number in a system that folds you into statistics. They count your radiation. They count your days. They track every place you go. The average recorded dose among many liquidators sits near a number, about 120 millisieverts. Numbers show how close you were. Numbers show what it cost. You do not measure your life in years yet. You measure it in minutes on a roof. You think the worst is over. The shock, the smell of burning metal. But the worst is quieter. It comes later, in months and years, in illnesses. You watch villages get buried. You see fences built where people used to stand. You see roads left alone. People are moved, sometimes with a day to pack. Some leave like they will come back in 3 days. They never do. The exclusion zone grows. Houses remain with radios playing where the family left too fast to turn them off. You were told to move fast, you moved. You were told to stay short, you tried. You hear talk of sickness. Acute radiation sickness among firefighters and plant staff is not a rumour. It happened. You see men taken away with fever and wounds that are not burns anyone knows how to treat. The world learns names and then learns more names, and then numbers start to mean people. You learn how the world learned. Sweden's detectors went off 2 days after the blast. Foreign scientists phoned your ministers. Only after pressure from outside did the Soviet broadcasts admit that something large had happened. The story reached the public, slowly, then all at once. By the time official words came, buses had been running and the town was quieter than any of you remember. You are not naive. Yes, some of you went at first not knowing the full truth, but by the time the next rotation began, most of you understood the scale. You knew where you were going and what could happen. Knowing did not make you stop. You were given limits, dosimeters, rules. They help. The recorded doses vary. Some men got little, some got a lot. Records later would show ranges from small to huge. You think about the word hero sometimes and throw it away. People will call you that in papers and on certificates. You will get medals. But when you stand in the dark, counting seconds on a roof, what matters is that someone ordered you to go and you went. Maybe you went because of duty. Maybe you went because someone you could not leave existed on the other side. Maybe you went because the job needed hands, and yours were there. Labels can come later. You also learn what was stopped. You see what might have been? A reactor rupturing into something larger, more uncontrollable. You read reports later that say your work reduced further spread. You read that containment, drainage, and the men who fixed the pumps probably prevented wider catastrophe. You did not do it for medals. You did it because there was nothing else, but the work had a result. It bought time for others. It sealed danger into a place the rest of the world could measure. You come home eventually. Some return to the same kitchens and the same faces. Some homes are gone. Some returns are greeted by gratitude. Some are met with distance. People don't know what to say. Some of you keep quiet. Years will pass and the story will change tone. Scientists will study, argue, refine numbers. The books will list hundreds of thousands involved. After the evacuation, a new city was built, Slavutic. Workers and their families moved there, safe from the zone, but living beside its wound. Later tours come, cameras come, people look at your work, as if it's just another ruin. You will let people look, you will let them ask, you will answer when you want to. You are a person who took space in a story that needed hands. You're part of a force that counted hundreds of thousands over years of work. The number is wide. Roughly up to 600,000 people were later recognised as participants in recovery operations. You think about the price. It is not only the men who died within days. It is complications that arrive later. It is families who lose the person they depended on. It is children who were born under different skies. It is a long list that does not fit into a single sentence. You still feel something like quiet pride sometimes. Not the loud kind, but the small kind that sits when a child says thank you, or when a stranger mentions the work that kept a larger disaster from growing. You accept that gratitude. You know there is no single ending. The sarcophagus will need fixing. The concrete will need patching. New work will appear decades later. A new shelter, long-term plans, slow engineering that will try to keep the danger sealed. Your footsteps are one layer in a long history of people trying to manage what escaped and what remained. You do not ask for monuments. You do not ask for headlines. You ask only that the record be honest. You want the facts right, the date, the times, the names of the men who went down into basements. You want the recognition that the choice to go was real, not theatrical. It was a human decision to put hands where machines failed. If someone asks what it was like, you will say truth, stripped of the romantic. You will say that many of you did not know everything at first. You will say that quickly, most understood the danger. You will say that you still went. It stopped something worse. People live in the world that you helped keep. Cities carry on. Children grow. You have scars some can see, and many they cannot. You have stories some will hear, and many they will not. You do not ask for praise, but quiet thanks sometimes arrives. That is enough to make the memory burn with less pain. You were there, you went, you did what you could.